Okay. We'll make one of these.
Yeah,
I could show you all of these, how to do it. We could,
lovely.
yeah. So maybe instead of the what I was going to do with you today, we'll just focus on the leaves part because
Please.
it's just as important as the
Yeah,
plants.
yes. The those crotons are lovely. That white with the green, and
Yeah.
of course the philodendron is also quite to get the shine on that.
Hmm.
Did we have to ask? Yeah, yeah, okay.
One second. All right. So let's see the images together. Okay. So this is a picture of just graphic leaves and some flowers, tropical feel, I guess. So here it's more about the shapes and the colors and the whole combination of colors that makes them look a certain way. Whenever we're drawing leaves, we can either go with leaves that look realistic. This whole bunch of leaves, I think this pink almost looks unrealistic. Apart from the pink leaf, everything else is believable. But sometimes in nature, you never know what colors show it. They totally defy all your beliefs. So we can go with the colors that we see here. Then, uh, yeah, so acorns are also very nice to draw. A little complex because of the texture, but nonetheless, we can get to this. This part would come in painting seeds. Once in a while, I do that as well. So we will leave the acorns for that bit. This is a rubber plant. And here, along with the shape, you also have fun with layering colors. You can already see that the outer edges of the leaves are a light peach pink color, and then you have a lighter green, and then patches of deeper green. Another one is Monstera, again, a very interesting leaf, very dramatic. And over the years, I think all these different plants become the fashion to be indoor plants. And now there's also a mini Monstera, which I've got so adorable. Sadly, we don't get to see too many oaks in tropical zones, but this is also a very lovely, dramatic tree and leaf. Again, over here, more of these same leaves. Most of these are, I think, temperate. Apart from this ginkgo, I think that would also be temperate. So here we have a temperate palette, and then earlier was a tropical palette. And of course, then a jungle like that is pretty. It's good if we can do something like this. There are ways in which you can illustrate this and create that kind of density and depth. But we'll start off with something simpler. So, first, just the drawing of different types of leaves. We'll start off with the rubber leaf because it is relatively simple in its shape. There aren't too many things, too many variations. Then we can move to a monstera where the edge is broken. And then we can move to the maple leaf where it's not just the edge of the flowers, the structure is different, but also the colors are very unpredictable and everything is very dramatic. If possible, Neeta, could you check for fewer leaves to start off with so that we can focus on the shape of the maple leaf and then we can look at making this jumble
Yeah,
of leaves if we can.
I'll check on
All right. Okay, so we are going to first try to illustrate this plant the way we see it. So it's got a new leaf sticking out from the top, and then we have all the other leaves sticking out from the sides. But we are not going to make it realistic. We want to make it more graphic. So it should have, even the pencil sketches are not going to be too refined. I want you to be able to just see how If I were to, okay, let me draw this on screen and show you. You need to have very easy lines like these, and sometimes even multiple lines to see simple shapes. If we start doing a very refined line, and in that process, if we lose the essence of the tree or the plant, then that picture lands up looking very amateurish. I don't know how this works, but a more confident line, even if casual, gives the impression of a more mature illustration. So I'll try and demonstrate this as we go along. So what I want you to do is carefully look at direction of the leaves. So see where the central vein is pointing. What is the source? Not these lines don't come and attach to each other. There is something in between. So leave that gap wherever necessary. If there are some things that you do not understand or don't know how things appear, like in the case of the leaf below, it gets attached somewhere. We don't know where, but there is some attachment. Don't try to attach it over here. Don't try to give it some logic. That logic is, um, it will reveal itself if you just stay true to what, or drawing what you see of this illustration. Okay. If you feel even moderately confident, may I request you to try sketching with a pen. We just have to make shapes. You don't have to make it too big also. Sometimes making the illustration too big can be a little scary, but we can make it just about this small. Start off with the shape of the new leaf. It's almost like an S shape. The two parallel lines in the middle. Okay. And then from below that, there is one more new leaf coming onto the, I guess it's two stalks that are, two branches that are growing. And then between these, you have one leaf. Oh, sorry. I broke my own flip. Okay, never mind. I'm just changing the angle of the camera so you can see it better. Now, if you feel you want to make adjustments over here, you can freely make these adjustments also. Make double lines if need be. Now, making lines in the opposite direction to your hand is always tough. But when you're making something like a leaf, you can't even rotate the book. In some places, you might not see some details. Like I can't see the main stem over here. So I'm not going to make that. I see the stalk of this leaf in the foreground and the main stem, but I don't see how it ends. So I'm just going to take some information from the leaves on the side and going to create a taper towards the bottom, just using logic. Now, just drawing these 4 leaves will not be sufficient. So we can supplement. This is where the tricky part comes. Like I was telling you, drawing a leaf here looks very unnatural. In a photograph, it looks fine because there is a lot of other information supporting that. But here it just looks odd. If you can see past this oddness, it would be good. What you will see in the end is that just drawing these leaves, these 3 leaves at the bottom, creates the impression that the stalk goes right behind the leaf in the foreground. And this is enough. We don't need to do more than this. In order to make the leaf more interesting, in a few places, you can make the texture of the leaves. Remember that in many cases, our purpose for illustration is to make an artist's impression, at least in the beginning. Once you've made enough of these impressions, then you will be ready for botanical. A botanical illustration has more technically accurate data, which is not our purpose. I hope that is not the purpose you want to make these leaves. So you'll notice that there's a lot of beauty. Oh, I forgot to, there's one more leaf underneath this. I've drawn only 2. Okay, never mind. Now to that, to the point about illustrating from an illustration, what I'd say is if you find an illustration intriguing, study that. You will see that there's, or I guess you can study to see what it is about that picture that you find attractive. And then use a similar reference image, but a photograph, and convert that into an illustration by recreating the same things from the illustration that you had liked of another artist. So that becomes then, I guess, doing a study. And studies are great. A lot of artists have done studies. Incidentally, in December, we are going back to doing more studies of other artists' work also. And hopefully this year I can introduce you to some more different artists. We've already done Van Gogh a couple of times. This year also we will be doing Van Gogh because there are new students, and of course for old students also. An impressionist style is always good to practice. But then there are other artists that I've always wanted to make studies of. Oh, 1 second, let me see, Elaine. Yeah. Okay. So Elaine, in your lines, there are gaps in between your lines. Meaning
Huh?
where they are supposed to come and touch at the spine,
Okay.
there are some gaps. If you can avoid those gaps, and even
Okay.
it's okay if they overshoot a bit, but don't leave a gap.
Okay. Okay. Done.
Okay, if everyone is done, then we can just start coloring these. Let me know when you're done, then I'll start painting. Udan? Okay.
Aditi, can I show you mine?
Yeah.
Sketch. Can you see?
Yeah, about time.
Hmm.
See?
Yeah. Now it's looking good. Neeta, I'm going to ask you to not write the date on the page
Okay.
because whether you like it or not, that's a very casually written date. And
Okay.
your picture is always going to be seen along with that date.
Okay.
Put your hand on the date, your picture will start looking better.
Oh, okay.
Everything that you put in a composition becomes part of the composition.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Now can I have a look? See, it's much better. Okay. This is good. Are you happy with it?
You are asking me?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel just the little bit. I don't know the shape. I mean, yours has come a little roundish.
Uh-huh.
Mine is a little longish as well. I don't know.
All right. The moment you identify that, that gives you the opportunity to adjust your lines. So
Okay.
suppose you've identified your leaves as going very long. All
Long.
that means is that you need to widen them from the side.
Yeah.
So take this up. Don't erase any of the lines. Make a
Oh,
new line and adjust the line.
okay.
Half the problem is not being able to tell what you might like different.
Okay.
How do you know when you have to make a steady line and when you just, randomly lose lines? Like I just was doing wavy lines. Like how Elaine was not joining, even I was doing that. How do you know that you have to?
Well, I would never do those lines any case. So okay, let me just show you. I won't do it on this page, but often the trap that I've seen beginners fall into is drawing something like this. Okay, so there's gaps in between and this. So this, okay, it looks like a leaf, but there isn't enough conviction in this leaf. I'm going to use the same number of lines over here, but try and do it a little slower. Now here again, I'll leave some gaps. Oh, 1 second. Okay, sorry. Yeah, just checking. Right. So if I were to do this as a casual leaf, I would still take the effort to make these lines more equidistant. Something like that. So if I understand your question, Renita, you want to know when you can make lines like that and when you can make lines which are like more wispy. Am I right?
The meaning is what I was trying to convey is it should not look artificial. So we try to make it more. I don't know, how do you say? It's not balanced. The symmetry is what I'm trying to say. Like when it all are in the same. Are you getting what I'm saying?
I'm trying to.
It's like all the lines are symmetrically placed, and it's not uh, looking very natural, right?
Right.
That's what I'm trying to convey.
But no, but in this plant, the lines are symmetrical and they are uniform.
Okay, that's
So
what I'm asking. Like, how do we know when we have to draw like straight and some just loose lines? When do we do that?
okay, so now there's two different things the way I understand here. Over here, the lines are very graphic. They're all equidistant and they look very artificial. Is that correct? That is part of the observation, right? So this is a very graphic representation of the rubber plant. In the rubber plant itself, it has these lines, maybe not this angle, maybe they're flatter or whatever, but they are equidistant. They may not be as pronounced, but they are visible. It all depends upon what final effect you want for your illustration. Now, in this case, I'm working with a dark line with these light colors. So I'm going to, parts of the leaves are left unpainted because I want the pink to be visible. It's a very light pink. If I make these lines all over, then when the pink is applied, you won't even see that. But the green lines, the light green and dark green part also has a structure and a strength to it, which if we don't make these lines, the black lines might get weak. But after this, I am going to show you just the painting of, without drawing it in pen, of these rubber leaves so that we can compare the two effects. Okay? So let's start with painting. Now in this case, we don't need to do a wet on wet at all because all the lines in the leaf are pretty defined. So you can take a light, maybe a mix of orange and crimson, and put a wash on the entire leaf. But I want to also encourage you to not make it a flat wash. In the leaf, it is a fairly flat wash, but in the illustration, allow for some colors to be light, some colors to be dark, and maybe some highlights in a few places also. So press the brush down and don't do too much musty with the color. 1 or 2 strokes per leaf should be enough. And they'll all look like a nice light pink color. There is a chance that we will paint a green in a section where you've not painted pink also, but don't worry about that. I have hardly painted any pink in this section, but I'm going to let that be. You don't need to make everything obvious. While this is drying, I'll just make one leaf, this bottom leaf, somewhere over here. And here, just for a change, maybe I can make a more accurate wash. Of course, even in this, we can do a wet on wet. Let me try making a wet on wet. So for wet on wet, suppose we want a green in the middle, but we don't want that green to have a pink tinge. You can apply just water in the center and then drop a pink along the edge of that wet patch also. The whole leaf does not have to be painted pink. And while this leaf is still dry, wet, I will make a mixture of emerald green and is it like a light emerald green? I'm just going with that. I'm not changing that. And I'm making some marks. Oh, I guess emerald green, and I'll put a little bit of cerulean. Now here also, there's nothing to stop you from making a leaf that has two different light colors. If it looks good, you should let it work for you. The light green color that I mean, that's already existing in the plant is, I think, a bluish green color. So it's cerulean mixed with a little bit of emerald green.
Aditi, what's the blue color that you have used? Which one?
Cerulean.
Cerulean, okay.
And I've made a mixture of those two colors, and I'm painting the graphic leaves over here. While the leaf at the bottom is drying. Now you should do simple things like these. The main stem is not green, so make the effort, take the pains to paint around that main stem. So it'll automatically stand out. And try and recreate the shapes of the leaf. Now I'm painting them also in the direction that we made the lines in. So automatically you will get the structure to match. If your color does not match, don't fret about it. In the grand scheme of things, it will still look like a variegated rubber plant. But also remember that whenever you're painting, drawing, painting, whatever, you must keep looking at the reference image for every stroke. Because the point before you put your tool to paper is the only time when you can potentially be 100% correct. The moment you have put that pen or brush to paper, if you've not thought about what is happening, if you've not seen the picture and known that what you're doing is right, then it's all a game of chance. So keep looking at the picture. After looking at the picture, if you make something and it goes awry, at least you know where you can make the correction. When you don't look at the picture and you paint, then it's a shot in the dark and you can never learn to correct it. There was this concept in a movie sometime. I remember, I wish I could remember which movie it was. I think before somebody knows the result of something, say you've given a test or you've given an interview or you have applied for something, before you get the result, there is a feeling of euphoria because of this imagined outcome, because anything is possible. And until that is decided by whatever the decision maker tells you, yes, you've been selected, or no, you've not been selected, that moment is what is very exciting. So in painting, we don't allow for that moment, because you can just pick up your brush, take paint, and start painting. But try and put yourself in that moment just before you start painting, and tell yourself, if right now, before the line is drawn, I have the potential of drawing the line that is absolutely perfect. You always have that potential. After the pen touches paper, anything can happen. So that moment of observation will slowly expand, and it will become more meaningful.
What a wonderful awareness practice that is. No,
Nice.
really, to give a pause before you put your pen to your brush to paper.
Hmm.
And I think it's an amazing thing. I never thought of it. So it's really nice to know.
Yeah, it's that's why a lot of artists, they always mock artists when they stand in front of their easels and spend so much time. I remember seeing this in a play.
I've seen Milan doing it. He
Who
will
do
sit there and he will, do this
visualize
in
all the
the air. He'll do it in the air before he puts his brush to paper. He will just do these few strokes in the air. So he's like, planning it. He
lines?
knows.
And you start seeing that on your blank canvas. I've seen that with people who are making portraits, people who are making urban sketches, everyone. If you can give that time, you can just imagine the potential on paper. There are greater chances of it coming out. Okay. Now both these my samples have dried. I've made a deeper color now, which is again the same, emerald green and cerulean blue. And now I'm going to make the deeper color on top. In this case now, if you notice, there are a few places where there is a highlight. We often don't see the highlight because we identify only the color on the leaf. There is no reason for you to make the highlight also. So you can go ahead and paint the whole patch the way we see it. Or if you want to, you can reinforce some of these lines by just making clever patches in a few places. And those patches that you leave will imitate the highlights. Make these highlights only if you see them. If you can't see them, then don't assume their presence. On the other side, I'm not making the highlights. Let's see how that looks. If I want to make the same thing over here, I can make a much more casual brush stroke like that. I'm still trying to keep the central vein untouched. In the second illustration, you will notice that the lines are much more casual. I'm adding a little extra blue for depth along the edges. And repeat the same on the right. Now, in this case, I still look at the picture of the reference image, but as you can see, I am taking liberties and changing the design to suit my composition.
Okay, I get how you do that negative bit. I couldn't get it with just the brush strokes. It would go all uneven. So you get it like a line and then extend it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we continue this, then you can also make these bright pink leaves. This is, I think, one of the prettiest part of the rubber plant. The leaf grows out of, I don't know what that structure is also. It almost looks like a bud. And from there, the small leaf, I think it is.
It unfurls, I think. No?
Yeah, it unfurls and then the pink thing just falls off like the sepals of a petal of a flower might fall off. It is so dramatic. It's beautiful. So I hope you see the difference between the two renderings. One is very structured, the other one is fairly casual. And all the other leaves along this also would be pretty much the same way. They'd be painted about the same way. Now, let's take the Monstera. The Monstera in its structure is a bit complicated, but the painting is relatively simple. So I'm going to show you a graphic Monstera first. It's always easier to draw that. So we'll take a vertical line. This is the center of our leaf. I'm not making it too big. It's just about so much. And somewhere about 1.5 centimeters from the top, I am going to draw a tiny U shape, which I'm going to extend to the top with curved lines like that. From here, I'm going to draw a structure that goes round and then comes towards the center and becomes narrow. So almost like a heart shape, the hole in the center. This can also be straighter, but a shape like that is good enough. Now, I'm going to draw some leaves which are going to be the centers of those little tears. We have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tears in between on each side. So they almost seem to come from here. This is like the heart. And from the heart, you will have a line going up here. Then you will have a line going outward. So they don't come linear from the center. They almost come radially outward from the heart of the leaf, or at least pointing towards the heart. And then 2 on top. Right? This is more or less the structure. So variedly, these can be the tears or these can be the veins. Now, right now, I'm going to make them the veins so that when I make the structure of the leaf, this is how it's going to look. I start from the center, go out. This is a vein, right? My tear is going to be between the veins. So it comes out, then goes in, curves downward, comes down again, and keep lifting your pen when you're doing this. Make this curve, point the bottom line downwards, then make just the edge. If you try to do this like that in a continuous line, you will not be able to control how or what direction the line takes. Now let it hang a little bit. Between the two lines or veins is our tear, always. Oh, here now my line is too close, so I'm creating that tear along the line. And then in between these, again, not on the vein, but on the sides, you can add some more holes. Let me do it one more time from this side. When you turn this line around, here's one more thing you can do. You can pull this further. And you can make a slightly shorter hole also. The corresponding tears do not have to be in the same place. In fact, don't make them symmetrical. And you can make a bigger hole in a few places also. Now we can make the veins. So just draw a double line along the veins. Bring them right to the center and draw the next one. So when you're drawing with pencil, you don't necessarily have to draw everything. Sometimes even with pen, you don't have to draw. You can just paint around the line so that it looks distinct. That's about it. These veins do not come to the central vein at the same spot. They meet staggered. These details you can see on in your reference image. Okay, shall we try painting this? Here again, the system is very simple. Use a light color for an overall wash. Make sure that you don't paint in any of these holes because we want the contrast of the white staring out or shining out from the holes. You can use a mix of lemon yellow and whatever blue or green you have and make a nice vibrant green to paint the base coat. In this case also, you can leave a few patches with the as a highlight, but you can also do something more fun. So with this light green, focus on the veins because we want them colored properly. And then instead of painting it a predictable green, take a mix of blues and greens. So hydrate your sap green, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, and alternate the painting. If you feel like it, you can use a thinner brush or just use a brush which has a better tip. And paint this in multiple colors instead of just one boring green. For that matter, you can also paint this in blues and purples, putting in a little red once in a while to make it much more dramatic. So here I'm adding ultramarine blue. This is it's not as dramatic until I put in the crimson. But just a little flash. After that pink patch, I am just using the original colors, sap green and cobalt blue. But as you can see, the colors are all different in different places, no? Let that be the way it is. That looks much nicer, except don't, if you can avoid clouds, that'll be good. But actually, why not? Clouds also are not that bad. So you'll notice how the blue and green, when they mix, they create that depth that you need, even in a graphic. Neeta, you've shared a picture, the last picture you've shared. The maple leaves are not full.
Acha, you want something which is
So now tell me what is the intent of this frame? Do you want to paint something like that, or this is the one you found?
no, I just found it was nothing that I wanted to do this, but it's just the colors and that's all. Nothing, the shape,
Then can
nothing in particular.
okay, because this is a digitally created image of
Acha,
all
okay,
sorts of leaves they've taken and they've just pasted together.
okay,
It's fine,
okay,
but there is just so many colors and their tones are all so off. Don't even
okay,
bother painting this.
okay, okay.
So if you see them in natural setting, then
ठीक है,
for those, like
yeah,
the earlier image, but an individual leaf.
okay, okay, got
That
it.
This rhododendron is, I mean, this thing Monstera is fun because of the different shades. Na? I mean, there's some kind of license of doing whatever.
true. And the dramatic
Yeah,
of the leaf also.
marvelous leaf.
In general, leaves are a good topic. Especially now, everywhere we'll have patchad, na?
Yeah,
So you'll see different types of leaves changing color. Not all of them, but quite a few of them.
yeah, yeah.
And especially that, which is that badam. I don't know
Yeah.
what badam.
That's the only badam. That's the only tree that really changes in
Yes,
this, that it gives you all the breads and the oranges and of maple and
yes,
Kashmir, and this time.
absolutely. And what dramatic color
Yeah.
change. My God.
No, I've seen pink, which is,
Yes,
like stunning. Why would anybody think Rani pink is not a color? That is
I
amazing.
know it's fluorescent almost. It's
Ah.
that bright.
Even the yellows are so pretty.
That's true.
So I thought that acorn thing, with the brown leaves,
Huh?
would be very nice to do just as a pencil sketch because it has just, gradations of shades.
Right.
Nothing very different. But the maple leaves, I mean, those other ones that Meeta had posted,
Mm.
to do that is very difficult, one on top of the other, especially with if it's watercolors and you don't have much control over how much water, then it can
No,
be quite
but no, it's actually quite easy because it's watercolor. You
okay.
eventually, if you do go to any other medium,
Huh.
you'll say that this whole watercolor being the toughest was started by the oil painters. It's the funnest and the most
Yes,
easy.
it is. It's the funnest. Yeah. Easy, I don't know, Aditi, because so out of control. And
Oh, don't worry. The oil
never
paint
know.
is even more ridiculous. You think you
No.
have control, but you only have control over strokes. And
Yeah.
the effect of your painting only is
Yeah.
after you've done so much, and between
Yeah.
that, you have to wait for weeks for everything to dry.
Yes. Yes. To dry. I remember doing that. My God.
Yeah. And if you can visualize the outcome as you can, and then you create something and you see, or you can gauge if that outcome has been achieved or not, in watercolor, it happens much faster.
True.
So, painting to achieve an outcome, a desired outcome, can come easily in oil
Yeah.
and acrylic after a certain amount of practice with
Yeah.
watercolor.
True.
This reminds me of the story of how the sugar lobby did a study on oil, and
Huh?
through the 80s convinced all of us that people got heart attacks because of oily food. You come
Ah.
across this?
No, I didn't know this.
So yeah, that's why I remember there was so much told to um, the Indian community that we eat so much of ghee and
Ah.
oil, so we should stop all of that. So a lot of people were on oil-free diets. I remember this in the 80s and 90s. And then by the
I
early
know a couple
2000s,
who are still oil-free diet, huh? Like my niece, imagine. Totally oil-free, no oil in the house. Everything is cooked with a little bit of water.
I don't know how they do it, but the it turned out that the study was fake because this was the sugar lobby decided to, I guess, highlight the
Something else.
effects of something else so that they would lose
People
it.
won't think of the sugar. And anyway, people love sugar too much to give it up. You know what I mean? It's very easy to believe in oil.
Yeah. So they did this whole LDL and HDL and whatnot. Now, hajar things we
Yeah,
got.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember distinctly in the 80s, people would guzzle down Coke and Diet Coke, thinking that sugar is okay and zero sugar is actually zero sugar. But oil, I'm not going to touch. I'm not going to eat fried food. And whether or not it worked, I'm sure for some people it must work because everybody's body metabolizes food differently. But for some people, not having that much oil or ghee or whatever has caused joint pains or other problems which
Exactly.
their body needed. So this one solution for everybody does not work.
No.
So in the same way, I feel sometimes one person sometime who could not handle watercolor started this bad press against watercolor. And you're always scared of something that is tougher, or
Yeah.
you feel, "Arey baap re, stay away, huh? This is very tough." So
Yeah.
that spread more than anything else. I feel really sad.
Really. But this leaves has been fun. We need to do more leaves.
Yes.
because this monstera here, mine is not a neat. I'm always a little untidy, but is this one a little better? This one, I mean, not too great.
No, this is good.
It's okay because this one didn't turn out right, so I said let me do another one.
No,
And
the one on top, Elaine, if you paint, the one
yeah,
in the middle, it'll look good
yeah,
after you finished it.
okay.
Hmm.
And this one I'm getting like now the hang of it after I
Okay.
saw you do that middle thing. Na?
Hmm.
Wasn't getting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Looking good.
So,
Monster.
Neeta, what you're doing? Thank- I was having a chat with Neeta and I said, you never show. She said, because I do rubbish. I said, only if you show will we know. And Aditi will be able to tell you what to do, not to.
Yeah.
Like, correct. It doesn't matter. Because how bad it is, it doesn't matter really.
No,
At least you can get some correct. What's the point?
so my analogy for this used to be that any teacher is like a well, and the well doesn't move. The well just has that wealth of information. A well would have water. So you have to decide how much water you want to draw from it, and you can go, and the well is always giving. It's not saying, okay, so much for you and so much for somebody else. So if you
Good
have,
point.
yeah, so if you want it, you can go and you can draw out that information or feedback or whatever. And then you drink from that. And what you drink, other people can't because they have their own as much as they want. And those who don't go to the well will not get the well.
Yeah,
So it's all up to.
that's it. True.
The other thing that I told my two students at Flame today was that whenever you're starting anything in terms of evaluation of work, everyone starts thinking about how good I am. Most people, or let's say all of us, have started at level which, if evaluated on day one, would be F, because we don't know anything. So we
Totally.
have to build up to, first we build up to D, then we come up to C, then B, then A. But this, I don't think many people think of it like that. They want to be able to be at level A on day one, which is impossible.
Yeah.
So
True.
if we make ourselves into toddlers, then we can become experts very fast.
No, I like this pen, this drawing of how to do these leaves with the pen sketch of the sides.
Hmm. Okay.
Never done it like this before.
But Aditi, there's something called like in dance, you have two left foot. So, like it takes, for me, it takes a while to slowly, slowly
Yeah,
get
yeah. No, you can,
It takes a while. It's not like you have to
some
left
people,
feet. Yeah.
some people have a very natural flair of tuck, tuck, tuck.
but I would say you don't know this till you compare it to somebody else. If you do not compare it, you know only your skill level.
Yeah.
So there
Yes.
is no, you say you have a certain amount of skill in drawing, but
Yeah.
maybe compared to your own skill in drawing, your skill in painting is slightly better. And by that, it's just about control, being able to
Yeah.
do whatever you want to do, right?
Absolutely.
But the moment you say that mine is not as good as, then it's it's a losing game altogether.
Never. Yeah.
So first thing to do is when you see somebody else's painting is to keep a wall between their work and your ability. You must be able to appreciate their work. So you must be able to say, oh, this is great. How long did you take to do it? How long have you been doing art? All of that. That is very good. That's good for us because you know how far they have come. The moment you find out that, and you know that you have just begun 3 weeks ago, you know that, okay, fine, I have another 12 years to go before I can come to that level, at least. And that should make you feel better, not worse. And the second thing is evaluating for yourself has to be not about comparing from between people as much as identifying what you like and what you have to achieve. So, for example, I know in Elaine's case, it is probably about neatness, just be able to paint neat and keep the paint where it's supposed to be and not have it go around. But that is her personal goal. And if she just sticks with that, sooner or later, she'll be spreading paint less and less and less. It will not happen in one day. But but then from that, if you change the game completely and you look at certain artists where going out of the lines is what they do better, then you are already achieved. You've already gone beyond your potential.
No, for me, it is, I think more than that, I feel I'm a connoisseur. I can identify and appreciate really good work, you know. So that I have an eye for that. But to translate it into my work, yeah, it takes, a long time. Slowly.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and it is about control. And so that the translation is a little like, for Elaine, I had done a thing for her birthday. I just, drew something, I mean, painted something for on an envelope for her. So, the idea was like really, I was so excited about it. But by the time it came onto the paper, I thought it was looking very kiddish, and it was. So I mean, that's the thing.
yeah,
It
I've been
was, but that was the charm of it. No, it doesn't
I
have to
have
look that because it's kiddish.
No, matlab the whole. I mean, I would have. I mean, the way I imagined it, it didn't come out like that. But it was okay. Yeah.
I have been
That's where
through
you need
that.
Aditi's help.
Yes, and I don't know when the transition happened, but I know how the transition looked. So let's say, let me enumerate the things that make our illustrations look good in our brains, but when executed, they look very kiddish. One is just sheer ability. That needs time. Okay, let's keep that aside. Second is developing an eye for composition. You may be able to appreciate a composition that somebody else has already made, but if you were given a blank sheet, how do you think of those elements? How do you put them together? So, for that, one mental exercise is simple. If you see something, even something as simple as a card, and you say, okay, it's like for Diwali, they'll show some lamps and they'll have some glow around it or some mandala or whatever. You can always say, instead of a mandala, what else can I put over there? I like this composition, but what else can I put over there? So you just do this mental exercise and you start coming up with several options of what might be possible, but you still don't know how it's going to look until you do it.
Yes.
So once you start doing it, you have to just say, nine out of 10 things I'm going to keep the same. The one thing I'm going to change. And the reason is I like the composition that exists. I want to add my own flavor to it by substituting X with Y. So you slowly start experimenting with composition where only few elements are changed at a time. And then before you know it, you start developing a confidence. And also this whole visual exercise is you've seen the fruit of that labor. First imagining it, then executing it. And it can be good, it can be bad. And if you have bad outcomes, it's a good thing. You will do more with the bad outcome than with a good outcome, for sure. Okay, I've shared a couple of images of isolated. Yeah.
Yes. I was looking at the first maple leaf, and earlier I would have started off drawing it with the curves of the leaves. Now I've learned that out of really this lesson and a lot more which I didn't notice, but this lesson if I draw the veins first,
Yes.
the radiating lines of the veins first, then I
Yes.
have a much better hold of getting the final shape, you know,
Right. Do a
just the
short.
veins and how they radiate out.
Yeah. So draw it
At
now.
least
Have a
I
small,
learned that.
yeah, make a small leaf. And for each of those prongs of the leaf, you can look at the individual shape that is created. I'll just speak through this so that you can then you can make it by yourselves and try it out. So we have a central,
Yeah.
very conveniently placed vertically, and then you have these two lines which are at about 45 degrees. Okay, and then between them you have these V shapes. They're uneven V shapes. If they were even, this V would have come over here. So you have a V shape like this, and then you have a shape like this. Sorry. Let me change this for you. So you have one coming down, and then you have a line almost going up vertical. See, this is the shape. And once you get this outline, it becomes a lot easier. You have another almost vertical. This is the outline. After this is done, then it becomes very easy for you to just sculpt out a line from here. I don't know why it's not giving me this option. Just sculpt two curves out of the edges, and the rest, of course, the lines are not straight, they are still curves. You should be able to do this a lot easier now. I'll share this image so it stays on the group.
And then we can start with a wash of the golden yellow, and then
Correct.
while it's still wet, try and put in the orange.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. One tip is don't make very large leaves.
Ah.
Make medium size leaf, not too small, not too large, not the whole page. It becomes too big. Janita's daughter is one who makes such tiny illustrations. They are, when she becomes a very famous artist now, Janita, you can encourage her to keep a magnifying glass.
Magnifying glass. Yeah, there's one artist, Vishweshwar Sen. You have heard of?
Oh, is it?
Yeah, with a magnifying glass, you have to see his artwork. And the flames, literally, you can see each color.
I won't be too surprised if Kyra does something exactly like that. She loves mini things.
So after we finish the watercolors, then do we do the veins?
You can do it that way also.
Otherwise, how would you tackle the dark veins? Do it in pen earlier and not do anything?
No, not in pen, but the dark are not as dark as they come across. No?
Okay.
So even whatever we draw in pencil, it would be sufficient.
No. Okay. Okay. Right.
So here's the shape I have. And the stalk, then 45 degrees to this side. So when you're drawing these lines, just be careful that you don't draw stick straight lines.
Okay.
Like the edges. And those also just because we're doing this exercise, therefore these lines make sense. But where you don't need to draw that line, don't draw a stick straight line for anything.
Okay.
And things like these, look at where the two leaves vary. Those variations make your pictures look much more natural. See, on the right hand side, it does not have this pointy bit coming down. Mine has become too tall, but it's okay.
Draw a few of the veins in between too, you think? No.
No, not right now.
Okay.
I'm thinking we can make that with paint afterwards.
Okay.
So I'm going to hydrate all these colors, huh?
Okay.
Gamboge, orange, and scarlet. Maybe even crimson towards the tips. There isn't too much orange, but the yellow that we see is not like a bright lemon yellow. And because it's the yellow is towards the stalk, I'm turning the picture around and I'm going to paint upside so that I can keep adding color to it. I'm not going to do a wet on wet. I'm going to do wet into wet. And drag the color forward. Again, just to remember, it's not universally red beyond this point. So a few patches of orange and yellow will in fact look nice. That's, I think, one of the best bits about drawing in nature is the unpredictability, inconsistency that makes it good. And remember to tilt the book a little bit. Ideally, when you're doing this, also rotate the reference image. Because now this is happening. Oh, thank goodness, this is not dried completely. Now, apart from this, here's one more. I don't know if I've shown you how to draw leaves with some amount of brush manipulation. Some of those leaves, like palm leaves, you can also paint without doing all this fuss. Hydrate a few colors. The usual blue and green are good enough. And you can practice painting in this manner. If you all can just see this. Starting off with a thin stalk, just the tip of the brush. And then using strokes like this to make different shapes of leaves, and depending upon the length, you can just extend it further and turn them around.
What number brush are you using, Aditi?
This is number 7.
Oh, okay.
So the control of the thin part of the brush, and then a little fat, and then consistently increasing the thickness of the leaves. And sometimes you can also go ahead and do this. Oops, what I was avoiding. And then from the other side. This is also a very nice exercise. It's just brush manipulation. You start with just the tip, then press as you move forward. And as you're lifting the brush, reduce pressure again. If you want to make them smaller, same thing can be done. So you don't make really long leaves. So this mostly looks decorative because there are very few leaves which are this short and fat. But the palm leaf looks very nice. Okay. All right, now just before we end, I'm going to use a thin brush to make some of the veins. And I'm making it a combination of crimson and burnt umber. Part of the leaf is still wet, so I'm not going to do that, but just at the base. This is becoming too dark and too thick. So thin line, sometimes even this much is enough. You can draw it either continuous or a broken line. And if you have the confidence, you can also draw a few that go outward into the patches. Okay, so this is again another tip of the iceberg, or the tip of another iceberg.
Yes. I still want to know how to draw a lotus leaf one day.
We will do
How
lotus.
they, how
Lotus
they
leaves are not
manage with
very.
a drop and whatnot, it's just too much.
Next month we are doing materials. Maybe we can do a water drop on lotus leaf. Would you please
That
remind
would
me?
be lovely. Yes, of course I will. Just
Because
a lotus leaf is great, but to do the water, yes, yes, certainly.
great. So we can
I
practice.
have clouds in my autumn leaf, but well, can't help it. Here we go.
1 second. Let me pin it. Too much water. But
Yeah,
don't,
yeah.
but then Elaine, don't make the veins at this stage. Let the
Done.
whole thing dry. Make a second layer. Wait, Aram.
Oh,
Rush.
okay. No, I thought it dried, but it was all cloudy. So I said, now what to do? Let me add the waves.
Second layer. Oh, nice. Janita's also good.
Very nice. Yeah.
The
At least she
coloring
doesn't
is
have
big.
cloudy things.
But I think the cloudy thing is something that you will inherit from me because of the amount of water work we do. So it's just the process. Even I have a lot of clouds in between. But remember that clouds in layer one, even layer two is okay, but build up.
Okay, I should have put another layer after that, right? And secondly, say if I used a more absorbent paper, would that help? No, na?
It would definitely help. Yeah, this paper does not have the capacity to soak
Hold.
that much water. The moment you change to a 300 GSM paper, it will soak up quite, in fact, much more. So the kind of water work that we do over here is not enough. It's just about 50% of what you can land up doing in a 300 GSM paper.
Oh,
And
I
at
see.
that point, it becomes so frustrating because you're just putting more and more water, and it just drinks up like it's not obviously it's not seen water for a long time. The fibers just like
Yeah,
me too, give me too.
yeah, that's also so you have to be very quick then for that.
No, no.
Okay.
You
I
just
see.
use more water, you use fatter brushes, you
Okay.
soak the paper up.
Okay.
And you allow that paper to just completely get primed with all that hydration, and then eventually by the time you come to the highlights, it has absorbed all the color and all the water and is sitting nice and plump, and then you do the details.
I see. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah,
So,
thanks. This was wonderful. Very nice.
so next week I'll be taking this class from Mahabeshwar,
Oh,
Mahabeshwar Club.
you're going to the club.
I'm
Yes.
visiting. So you guys, and nobody is coming from your batch for the workshop.
No, those dates don't gel. January, we are busy every weekend at the university. So
But it's not on the weekend. It's 8th to 12th.
I'll tell you, but
Mm.
I don't think I'll manage. Let me see.
Yeah, just check. It's from the 8th to 12th of Jan. And
Which is, let me see the dates. Yeah, let me see the
Monday
dates.
to Friday. I've deliberately not taken a weekend
Ah,
because the weekends in Mabeshwar during winter are a nightmare. I don't think anybody should go, and I don't want to subject our group to that nightmare of Mahabeshwar crowd. That's why it's from Monday to Friday.
oh, okay, okay.
So do try, because we still have vacancy for about 4 people, but I need to know as soon as possible because otherwise the club is full. Then
Okay.
we have to stay outside.
Okay, done.
Okay, see you next week. Bye.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
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 Thanks. Thanks.